Wow. The balls on this guy. And just as you thought, Brussels didn't like it. Lumumba fell out of grace with the colonial masters, and a week later, Leopoldville erupted in riot on January 4th, 1959. Why does everyone keep throwing things at us? What did we do? You really asking that? Come on, let's get out of here. Alright, Belgium had been in Congo for 75 years. They weren't about to give up control just easily. You know what we should do? I think we should let them have the little independence, you know what I mean? But we'll keep the real power. Genius. Absolutely genius. Their strategy pretends to grant independence while keeping control of the army, economy, and foreign policy. So everything that Lumumba had requested was not an option for them. Oh, and let's not forget the 100,000 white settlers in the Congo. They were not happy about independence because Congolese independence meant that they had to move back to Belgium, and they were not having it. Self-rule in the Congo? Absolutely not. You guys would not do this. Otherwise, I'm going to take... Actually, I don't own anything. You know what? I don't care. Now, despite all the drama, Congo became independent on June 30th, 1960, with Lumumba as Prime Minister and Joseph Kasavubu as President. But here's the kicker. Kasavubu was kind of irrelevant, like who's that guy? Levels of irrelevance. I'm the president, you know. Sure. Now, let me just handle the important stuff, okay? Just sit there and, yeah. Alright, see you. Did you guys get paid already? Yeah, I got paid with peanuts again. We are literally getting paid with bags and bags of peanuts. What the heck? Things started falling apart immediately after the Congolese army mutinied against their Belgian officers, demanding better pay and African leadership. Chaos and violence erupted everywhere. Alright everyone, please calm down. We are independent now. Yeah, but where's our money? Fair point. Now with all this chaos happening, Belgium, being Belgium, decided to send in troops back into Congo, claiming they needed to protect Belgium citizens. But really, they were just undermining Congo's sovereignty. Wait, you guys can bring your army here. This is a sovereign country. Get your army out of our country. Guys, we are here to protect people. Definitely not to cause trouble, you know? Dude, what the heck? Just leave. No. And just to add fuel to the fire, the mineral-rich Katanga region declared independence with Belgium support. Wow, this is fine. Everything is fine. And that's how things stood. A newly independent Congo, a mutinous army, Belgium interference, and breakaway region. Well, with this chaos, Lumumba turned to the United Nations for help. He even flew to New York in July 1960 to meet with US and UN officials. But let's just say, things didn't go as planned. His demands were pretty modest if you think about it, because he simply just asked for military intervention to stop secessionist movements and restore order. But the US, well, they were like, nah, we're good. Yeah, we don't like to get involved into country's affairs, so... Wow, you are such an egghead. No wonder the animator drew your head like that. Fine, I'll just ask the Soviet Union then. Did you hear what he just said? He's gonna ask the Soviets for help in the middle of a Cold War? Wow, you just signed your own death sentence, bro. Back in the Congo, President Kasavubu announced over the radio on September 5th that Lumumba was fired as Prime Minister. But Lumumba fired back, literally over the radio, saying, "Nope, I'm still in charge." You're fired. No, you're fired. Can you two just figure these things out already? Like, we recently just got our independence. I don't think this is the best time for us to be fighting like this. I said you're fired. No, you're fired. Meanwhile, the CIA was not fond of Lumumba anymore. CIA Director Alan Dawes called him a grave digger. And President Eisenhower straight up said he wished Lumumba would fall into a river full of crocodiles. Crocodiles? Sir, maybe we should focus on policy instead of wildlife? I think crocodiles is better. Then the US sent this guy, Larry Devlin, the CIA man in the Congo. Devlin was a super anti-Lumumba. He used Mobutu, who was the general of the Congolese army at the time, and Kasavubu in the government to isolate Lumumba. Oh, and he rented anti-Lumumba crowds and just gave them a bunch of money and newspaper headlines to make it look like everyone hated Lumumba. Classic CIA work. Alright, here's some money. Now go out and shout some anti-Lumumba slogans. We don't even know who this guy is, but okay. Now here's one thing about this Devlin guy. He was a master manipulator. He sent exaggerated reports to Washington, making them paranoid about Lumumba. You know Lumumba keeps sending love letters to the Soviets, and he still thinks your head is like an egg. You're gonna do something about that, right? By late August 1960, Eisenhower had had enough. He ordered Lumumba's elimination, fearing he'd align with the Soviets. Yeah, just take him out, okay? And quietly. And who was in charge of doing that? Enter Joe from Paris, aka Sidney Gottlieb? Yeah, his name is kinda weird. He was the CIA's top poison expert. He showed up with a tube of poison toothpaste meant for Lumumba. The plan was administer the polio virus for a slow but painful death. Yeah, here. Just make sure he brushes his teeth. This feels overly complicated. Jeez, it's not that hard. Just put it in his bathroom and let him brush his teeth every day in the morning and boom, that's it. How did you even get into the CIA? However, this plan didn't go ahead because Lumumba was already captured by Mobutu's soldiers, and then he was taken to the military barrack in chains. Even in the barracks, he was too charismatic and rumors began to spread that soldiers might release him. Devlin panicked and asked for more money so he can bribe soldiers. And lots of it, enough to buy an army. And so Lumumba's fate hung in the balance between CIA plots, Soviet indifference, and his own charisma. The stage was set for the most dramatic chapters in Congo's history. And by January 1961, the situation was reaching its tragic climax. Lumumba's fate was sealed, but there was one last twist. A new president in the White House, John F. Kennedy, had just taken office, and the CIA was not very happy about it. On January 14, Devlin received a telegram telling him to put the Lumumba situation on hold. Why? Because JFK was now president and he might actually try to work with Lumumba instead of eliminating him. But Devlin was not having it. Ugh, JFK is such a cupcake. He's probably going to try to negotiate and letting Lumumba survive. Devlin knew that he had to act fast. He refused to share information about Lumumba's transfer to Moise Tshombe's men in Katanga. Which begs the question, could Lumumba have avoided execution if Devlin had called the handover? Well, I guess we'll never know. And in his final days, Lumumba wrote a heartbreaking letter to his wife. He said, "Neither brutal assaults, nor cruel mistreatment, nor torture had ever led me to beg for mercy. I prefer to die with my head held high, unshakable faith, and the greatest confidence in the destiny of my country, rather than live in slavery of sacred principles. History will one day have its say, and it will not be a history taught in Brussels, Paris, Washington, or the United Nations, but a history taught in the countries freed from colonialism and its puppets." On January 17, 1960, Lumumba was handed over to Moise Tshombe's forces in Katanga. What followed was a brutal and tragic end. Lumumba was executed, and his body was disposed in one of the most inhumane ways imaginable. Lumumba's death was a dark moment, not just for Congo but for the entire world. A leader who was silenced. But Lumumba was right about one thing. History did have a say. Today he's remembered as a hero for African independence, a man who stood firm in his beliefs, even in the face of unimaginable cruelty. And his legacy lives on in the fight for justice, equality, and freedom across the continent.